You did well, thank you. The deep voice soothed Sean's weary nerves and washed away his anxiousness instantly, while a sudden sense of secure whelmed his heart. Sean suddenly realized that Maya is not someone unimportant to Heine despite his aloof face. Otherwise, a man who dislikes human contact would not have used such a way to express his gratitude. Though the thought disappeared within seconds when Heine pushed him away. The room fell into silence, where only one's own heartbeat could be heard. Maya stared at the ceiling in boredom, while Heine sat on the instructor's seat, wiping his blade. 10 minutes later, Reeve and Mark rushed over. Sean could see a moment of shock on their face when they saw Maya, and back to normal seconds after, accepting the fact. Damn. You actually survived through the encirclement of those two maniacs. You have my respect, buddy, Mark said while giving a good smack on Maya's left shoulder, and continued, don't tell me you're planning to use these injuries as an excuse to drop out from the front line and enjoy your life, huh? Hey. I was just thinking about that. Maya replied triumphantly. Like hell. Do you know how much our team's combat level's gonna drop without you in it? Reeve rolled her eyes at Maya. Aw, I didn't even know I'm so important. Sadly, after an hour, only another 2 of their team managed to reach Platform 42. The others did not make it. Base 2 has sent out 3 aircrafts to reinforce. A female Special Force soldier leapt down with a rope from mid-air, and when she saw Maya that is leaning against Mark for support, she whistled, goodness, Maya, who got you cut into this? The 2 scumbags that killed Instructor Medwin. Maya lifted a corner of his mouth. The teasing look on her face immediately turned solemn. Where are they? Dead. You got rid of them? Maya hooked Sean over to him with his right arm, pinched his cheek and said, we killed them together. Sean was not in combat suit, nor does he has an epaulette. The female soldier looked surprised for a moment, before showing an approving smile. Not bad, tech soldier. Come, Sean. Let me introduce you to one of the 3 goddesses in our special task forces, Senior Officer Sharon Michelle. Sean was dumbfounded for a second. The lady before him has a brunette hair pulled to the back, an undeniably alluring beauty. Moreover, she is a senior officer, higher in ranking than Reeve. She gave a firm salute as she turned to Heine Burton, Colonel. Heine only gave a slight nod in return and shot off a wire towards the hovering aircraft. He took a few steps back towards Sean and pulled him into his arms without a word. Before he had the time to think, Sean was locked between Heine's arm and shot up into the air at great speed. Within seconds, Heine entered the cabin and Sean was shoved into a seat. By the time he was back to his senses, Heine was placing the safety equipment onto Sean's head. This time, Heine had brought him up personally. Does that mean he had finally gotten a small acknowledgement from Colonel Burton? Soon after, Mark and Reeve entered the cabin with Maya clinging to each side. The aircraft was heading to Base 2. Hey, where are you staring off to? Maya gave a flick at Sean's forehead. We won't get attacked again, right? Ah? Maya shook his head. Not only the elites of Colonel Burton's unit are on these aircrafts, Gene Wallace's main detachment is here as well. Sharon is one of his subordinates. Ah? Gene Wallace? Sean thought the name sounded familiar, and it took him some time to recall that he had heard of it a few times from the news. You don't know about Gene Wallace? Maya looked astounded, and then lifted his chin towards Heine's direction. You've never heard of Colonel Burton as well then? Hey! How can I possibly not heard the name, Heine Burton? Sean retorted immediately while glancing at Heine at the corner of his eyes to see his reaction. The said person seems to be taking a nap, sitting straight with his eyes closed. Though, he believes Heine would not even care if Sean has heard of his name. This man has no concern for how people see him. Sean took a deep breath. Reeve, is this the end of our mission? Yeah, Reeve nodded. Ah. Finally, I can have a good sleep, I'm all worn out. Sleep then, Reeve ruffled his hair. Closing his eyes, Sean dozed off to sleep. It has been a long and tiring mission. He refused to think no longer, wishing to clear off everything from his weary mind. Reeve tried to wake him up as they are closing into the base, but her outreached hand stopped abruptly in midair when she heard Heine's icy voice. Let him sleep. Inside the command room of Base 2, the liaison officer reported to Lieutenant Colonel Raven in puzzlement. Lieutenant Colonel, the aircraft Colonel Burton's boarding has been hovering around the base for an hour. What? The other 2 aircrafts are back to the base, what is he doing? Lieutenant Colonel Raven became worried. Have you made contact with Colonel Burton? I did. He said all normal. Lieutenant Colonel Raven stroked his forehead and sighed. How is this normal? The aircraft finally entered the passageway, while Sean was shoved awake by Mark. Hey! Rookie! Your mouth's drooling, gross. Huh? What? Sean jolted up from sleep and touched the corner of his mouth, clean as ever. And Mark started chortling at Sean, as Reeve gave him a punch. Idiot. As Heine stepped out from the cabin, he was greeted with a dark look on Lieutenant Colonel Raven's face. What are you doing up there? I almost thought your aircraft's been hijacked by the tides. When everyone left the aircraft, Lieutenant Colonel Raven glanced around, looking perturbed. Where's Major General Manson? You're here to pay your respects to Major General? Maya gave a mocking smile. What do you mean? Where's Major General? The moment Lieutenant Colonel Raven saw Maya, his mouth opened, but no more words came out. Finally, he turned to Sean. The latter shifted his eyes to the container in Heine's hand without uttering a word. Heine walked past Lieutenant Colonel Raven, placed the container in his hands and went off. Hey! Wait, what is this? Major General Manson. Reeve winked at him and strolled off as well, leaving Sean and Lieutenant Colonel Raven standing there, staring at each other. On the same day, the news of Major General Manson betraying Charles and turned to the tide spread like wildfire to Charles. His brain was sent to the interrogation unit. The Base 2 cafeteria held a farewell party for Maya, with him sitting at the dining table, enjoying the special service of Reeve and Mark spoon-feeding him. Maya's report of injury has been sent over to the Special Task Forces headquarters in Charles, and tomorrow, he will be flying back to Charles to have his prosthetic limbs done. The level of agility and control of the prosthetic limb is nowhere less than a human limb. It can be connected to severed nerves and is able to transmit signals of touch towards the user's brain. Frankly speaking, they can function almost flawlessly like a real human limb. However, the only downside to the prosthetic limb is that it does not have the ability to self-heal like a special force soldier once can. For instance, if the artificial arm is pierced by an enemy during battle, unlike the arm of a special force soldier that can recover by itself in seconds, the artificial arm will malfunction once the nerve connections are severed, and that can be fatal in battles. Maya has been promoted into major and was relocated to the Military Strategy Department, served as a guard for Major General Gordon, the commander of Special Task Forces. You fellow even got promoted. From now on, you get to continue to immerse yourself in a life of luxury and dissipation. Mark shoved a piece of beef into Maya's mouth, smearing the sauce on his face on purpose. Hey! Get that away from my hair, Maya yelled, fending off Mark with his right hand with all his might. At the same time, Reeve poured a whole glass of red wine into Maya's mouth. Maya, tell us what's the first thing you're gonna do once you've got your prosthetics fixed? Do a hair treatment, of course. Everyone laughed right after Maya's exclamation. He turned around slightly and caught a glance of Sean, waving at him. Hey, brother, everyone's fighting over to look after me, shouldn't you be doing something for me as well? Well, would you like a slice of beef or a glass of red wine? Sean asked with a smile. Leave those trivial matters to Reeve and Mark. I have something more important for you. What it is? Help me comb my hair, would ya? The zombie goos have got it all tangled up. Maya pulled out a comb from his shirt's pocket with a solemn look, as though it truly is an extremely crucial matter. Sean could help but laughed at his seriousness. All right, I'll comb your hair. Maya hinted others with a look, and they went off with the beers in hands. Sean carefully let down his hair and groomed earnestly. It's the first time to hear you calling me brother, sounds kinda funny. Which one do I fit into then? Comrade or friend? Sean gently pulled Maya's hair back into a ponytail. Unfortunately, you're now both. Maya held a big cup of beer towards Sean. Hey brother. Let's get drunk. Sean was stunned by his words for a moment, as something overwhelmed his heart. He laughed heartily. Yes, let's have a good drink. And you're back to Charles, I'll introduce Casey to you. Casey? Which Casey? Major Casey from the Central Academy of Science, of course, I'm sure you two will get along. He's my only friend before I met you guys. That fellow can be a bit difficult sometimes, but he's really adorable. Oh, a major from the Central Academy? Nay, forget about it, people of the sort usually have high standards. Not everyone is as adorable as you are. It was the first time Sean had so much fun in drinking, with his hand draping over Maya's shoulder, talking about their lame stories of the past. Sean even blurted out the little fantasies he had Lily that brought a roar of laughter from Maya. Hey, I have to say. You have a really rare chance of having a beauty of her kind to fancy you. Well, what kind of men would they prefer then? Someone like Colonel Burton? Sean had to admit. Heine has such gorgeous look that could sweep people off their feet if he wanted to. Boss is the type to admire from afar, while the kind like Gene Wallace is the dream man for the ladies. Get him to be your tutor if you had the chance to meet him. Ha 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 ha. Without notice, Sean got himself befuddled by the hype drinking. Special Forces soldiers can hardly get intoxicated thanks to their strong metabolism rate granted by the X virus, but Sean was not as lucky. As drunk as a skunk, he lurched from wall to wall, having difficulties in finding his way to the bathroom. Hey! To the left. Left. Oh God, brother, do you still recognize your directions? Maya was leaning against the table in a lazy manner, with no intention to help him up. Finally, Sean stumbled into the toilet, still muddled, and bumped his head on the sliding door. As he was about to come in close contact with the ground, someone hooked him up and dragged him into one of the compartments. Sean spewed up. The person's fingers locked onto the back of Sean's neck, preventing his head from plunging into the commode. Sean felt better after hurling out. Finally pulling back his spinning vision, he turned around slowly, his hands supporting on the compartment wall to prevent himself from stumbling. And the man standing before him, stoic and elegant, was Heine Burton. You should get some rest. A chilling voice split the world into two. Sean snapped back to his senses immediately, only to see Heine standing before him, hands down by his side. Meanwhile, there was a flash on Heine's communication device on his wrist. He tapped it with his finger and a hologram popped up, showing the face of the liaison officer. Colonel Burton, the information in Manson's brain has been decrypted. Hearing the name Manson, Sean's befuddled mind cleared up slightly. It has been troubling him since then, on the reason Manson has betrayed the Charles, which he has been thinking even in his sleep. What made him turn against his people, and what did the tides use that tempted him into joining them? As long as the answer remained unknown, Sean will continue to ponder endlessly, and he even began to imagine whether he would fall for the same temptation one day. The man before him turned around and turned off the hologram. The interrogation unit has retrieved the answer from Manson's brain. His voice was calm and blatant, as though it was normal to reveal a classified information. Ah, what is it? Sean knew he was not in the position to ask, and yet he did. The tides used immortality as their bait to lure Major General Manson into joining them, and to serve as a bait himself to get the elites of special task forces into the basement. That was his test to join the tides. If we're all dead, he passes. There isn't the slightest waver of emotions in Heine's voice, sounding like a record player. Immortality? Sean blinked in perplexity. That's impossible, there's no such thing as immortality. In this world. Heine turned his face slightly, the moment the light trailed across his features caught Sean's eyes. Is immortality impossible, or unacceptable? Just as the question about Manson ended, Heine dropped him another. Everything about Manson is strictly confidential. With that said, Heine turned around and left. Sean was extremely obfuscated. If it was confidential, why did he tell him? Your brain should be used for something more meaningful. His voice was low and steady, as though he was stating the fact. But Sean became puzzled. Why would Heine concern about what he is thinking? When he was finally back to his room, Sean flopped down onto the bed. Thinking that he could sleep throughout the day tomorrow, he took out his terminal and logged on to the Central Science chatroom and found his old friend, Casey. He figured his buddy would be worried sick after not hearing from him for so long. It seems that you're still alive, you bastard. The moment Sean logged in, he could taste the verge of anger from Casey. Sorry about that, I'm alive. Sean pursed his lips and scratched his chin. His antics are all portrayed within the mind of the person at the other end of the conversation. I've heard that you've joined the mission to rescue Professor Manson, but then I was told that he died. Even Heine Burton couldn't save him. What exactly did you encounter? Zombies. Sean gave a light-hearted laugh. He could not tell Casey the truth. It can't be just zombies. If it was only zombies, there's no way Heine Burton only brought Professor Manson's head back. How I wish I can get into the interrogation unit and find out what Professor Manson's thinking. Sean breathed out a sigh. All right, we met the assassins from the tides as well. Goodness. You actually had a face-to-face encounter with their assassins. Are you all right? Casey looked awfully worried, as Sean smiled triumphantly. Of course I'm fine, I even shot one of them in the head with a gun. Casey gave an exasperated sigh. Sean, can you not live without blowing your own trumpet? All right, even I myself won't believe it if I haven't seen it with my own eyes. Sean thought to himself but quickly shrugged it off. He has something more important to ask Casey. Hey. Since you're a professional in the X-virus research, I've something to ask you. If I were to take in the X-virus of a particular special force soldier, will I have delusions of that person? Sean managed to force out the words from his mouth. He would never ask such questions in front of other X-virus researchers unless that person is a close friend of his. He has been having delusions about Heine Burton that he shouldn't have, and not once, but twice. Huh? Casey gave a look of surprise, which then turned solemn in seconds. What do you mean by taking in? In what way? Sean, I have to warn you, you better withdraw yourself from it if you wish to hold on to your dear life. X-virus can get a person addicted, and the body of an ordinary human can never withstand the power of a special force soldier that went berserk. Alright, listen. If she was in front of you and you had those sort of delusions, that means she has desires for you. The X virus has escalated her hormone secretion and was transmitted into your body through the air, causing you to, well, into having those delusions. What if she's not in front of me? Casey shrugged. Sean, you have to withdraw yourself from this as soon as possible. I do not wish to autopsy you myself one day. Sean laughed. That day will never come. Heine hasn't got the slightest reason to infiltrate his brain, though Sean is certain he's a professional in it. Suddenly, the smile on his face vanished. He noticed a person sitting at the other end of his bed, not knowing when. Sean. You dumbass. Why did you go all quiet suddenly? The connection with Casey was disconnected. Sean was stricken with a pang of fear. He tried to struggle free from Heine, only to notice not an inch of his body can be moved. Sean. Sean, what's wrong with you? Sean. Casey's shout rang in his ears. Sean drew in a quick breath, his whole body quivering. The room was in dead silence. Sean stared at the other end of his bed blankly. There was no one. Where's Heine Burton? All of that was my own imagination again? Are you trying to freak me out on purpose? I nearly thought you had a brain infarction. Casey was getting all overwrought. Nothing, I was just lost in thoughts. What was that? How did I have the delusion of Heine? If he did infiltrate my brain, but I'm connected to Casey right now. Casey's a master in system controls. How is it possible for him not to notice if my brain was infiltrated? What were you thinking? About Professor Manson? Sean quickly cleared up his thoughts and changed the topic. Casey, do you believe in immortality? Immortality can never exist, Casey replied firmly. It can never exist or it shouldn't exist? It's impossible. Sean, even the universe has its own lifespan. What else is there that can override the universe? Sean smiled. The same question that Heine tossed over to him was answered by Casey in a breeze. Casey, you really are a genius. If you were to place half of your effort you spent on online dating and searching on those whatsoever histories and old movies, I bet you're a genius as well. Casey, don't you think we are online dating now? Go to hell. Their connection ended. After giving out a light laugh, Sean's face turned blank. Although it's probably impossible, if Heine really were to infiltrate his brain, all the senses and thoughts he had would all be existent. Oh God. Sean. Something's definitely wrong with your brain. In fact, Casey's brain was in the same system interface as mine. How is it possible for Heine to hack into my brain without being noticed by a research elite like Casey that has been through training in defending the interrupter? Though. Heine was once the research elite in the Central Science Academy as well. I can't stay in the room any longer, I should go for a walk, or find something else to do. Sean left his room and started strolling in the passageway. Meanwhile, a lady in the military suit of tech soldier was approaching from the other end of the passageway, with her beautiful blonde hair tugged behind her ear. As she came across Sean, she gave him a small nod and went off with her friend. Sean felt his heart flutter with happiness. Lily. Let's go for a swim later. Sure. Let's go. God. Why is Lily here? Oh. Come to think of it, a batch of apprentices went for an external inspection at Lieutenant Colonel Raven's base last week. Lily's probably one of them. Lily's not only his classmate but also his dream girl. After listening to Lily's conversation, Sean straight away decided to head over to the pool. With a joyful yet wishful thought in mind, Sean arrived at the only constant temperature pool in the base. There are no normal citizens in the base, only garrison soldiers and researchers, who will relax by the pool when they are off duty. When Sean got to the pool, sure enough, there were Lily and her friend, lying prone by the pool, chatting happily. This was his best chance to approach her, he was raring to go. Sean crept into the water, swimming silently over to Lily. Should I pretend to swim over inadvertently, or? Just as he was lost in thoughts, an oncoming figure dashed towards him with a force that could slice through ripples. Sean then felt a water impact strike against his shoulder, and by the time he snaps by from his thoughts, he found himself on nearly sitting at the bottom of the pool. The person bumped into him with an immense force, and what's worst? He got hit on his mouth. His lips got knocked onto his teeth. The intense pain had him neglected the fact that he was still in the water, and started coughing. Sean's eyes snapped open. Never once had he felt so miserable in his life like he is now. The golden brown strands were like rays that reflects into the water, elegant and blinding. Heine Burton. Why him again? Is this a nightmare? The expected torment did not come. As Heine recognized the unshaped face under the water was Sean, his knee paused. He then threaded his finger into Sean's hair, scooping him up from the water. Sean started coughing vigorously once his face left the water. He knows the gaze Heine had just now. It's the same gaze he has when he was killing zombies. Heine scooped his hair back from his face, revealing his elegant forehead. However, his calmness seemed like a violence under deliberation to Sean. Lily and her friend already have their eyes on them. Meanwhile, Sean was in an embarrassing state, though he certainly do not have the time worrying about that. Without a word, Heine turned around and walked towards the poolside, forming a slight ripple with his every movement. The pale outline on his shoulders and his robust frame have significantly caught the eyes of the two ladies at the opposite end. At the same time, Heine had swum over to another empty pool, with a clear sign that no one is allowed to re-enter his domain. Sean held his head in his hands. With such dramatic appearance, he's undoubtedly become the perfect foil for Heine. Knowing that he no longer have the chance to get noticed by Lily, Sean left the pool in defeat. Neither does he have the courage to be in the same pool as Heine, so he ended up dashing over to the shower room. After a hasty rinse of his body, Sean pressed the open button, yet, the door did not slide open. He pressed again. Still nothing. What's happening? I don't have such rotten luck now, do I? He turned to his wristband and attempted to reach Control Center with his communication device. But the response he got was the code is invalid. Only then Sean recalled that Heine clutched his wrist back in the pool. The force of his grip even left a crack on the device. Hello? Anyone out there? Can someone please help to contact the Control Center? I can't get the door open, the button isn't working. Sean tried to kick and trash, but the door just wouldn't budge. Stupid base 14. If it was in Charles, all shower room doors are functioned with sensors. Only an old and ragged place would use buttons. Is there anyone out there? Sean let out a sigh. What a fat chance is there for someone to be out there? There are only 2 men in the whole swimming pool area, me, and Heine Burton. Right at that instant, the door was pushed open with a bang, even the shower compartment was vibrating. Sean was stunned. Because the person standing before him is no one else but Heine Burton.